It's Changli time, baby! It's time for the Changli guide. Let's just get to it. I do want to apologize real quickly about how late this is coming out. The future ones will come out much sooner and before and then right after the character comes out. A lot of stuff just kept popping up right around the time of Changli, so without that though, let's get to it. What are Changli's combat rules? Knowing this helps understand what she's good at, what you should be focusing on for the character. She's a main damage dealer. She's a resonance skill damage dealer, so her resonance skill is kind of the main focus of her damage, but her ult, Resonance Liberation, does quite a lot too. We'll explain that. Then she also is a fusion damage and a Resonance Liberation damage amplification. So you can see she helps other fusion teammates and then can also help buff Resonance Liberation damage for teammates. So keep that in mind when you're building a team. I'll explain what people work well with her, but let's get to this. Starting with her weapon. Obviously the weapon that's going to be best for Changli is the Blazing Brilliance, her signature weapon, which you can go and summon for, but most people are probably going to be trying just to get Changli in the first place, not necessarily also going for her weapon, especially if you're free to play and you didn't necessarily save up everything just for Changli. If you don't have the Blazing Brilliance, the 5-star sword Emerald of Genesis would be her next best weapon. That is another fantastic choice. But if you don't have either of the 5-star swords, let's look at our 4-star and then of course 3-star option. For 3-star, the Sword of Night at rank 5, which it's super easy to get all 3 stars, rank 5, like you just have to get them 5 times and then you can rank it up. So we want to try and get it rank 5 if you're going to use it, but again, even if you're free to play, that shouldn't be too tall of a task unless you are just brand new to the game, in which case you may not have all of the swords, but still, that's your 3-star choice. Now for 4-star swords, obviously if you can get them to S5, that is better, but if not, you still will want to go with the Commando of Conviction as the best one mathematically. I am looking at what people who have run the numbers and like damage tests are saying mathematically wise. You can kind of swap out all of them. It'll be a relatively similar experience, I'm going to be honest, if you're not going for hard, most peak of peak gameplays, which if you're using the 4-star, you're probably not. But technically the Commando of Conviction is the best, then the Lunar Cutter, and then the Lumen Gloss, which I don't actually have here. It is another 4-star sword you can go out and get. As you can see, these buff the attack percentage and then have the flat attack, while the Blazing Brilliance or signature sword has crit damage as the percentage stat, and the Emerald of Genesis has crit rate, which you want crit rate and crit damage on her, but if you don't have the 5 stars, you want to go with these 4 stars. Now let's talk about echoes. Obviously, she's a fusion damage dealer, a fusion DPS, so you're going to want the Sonata effect Molten Rift, which is having 5 fusion. You get that fusion damage bonus, and upon using Resonance skill, fusion damage increases. So that's your main goal in terms of what Sonata effect type you're going for. Now, if you just have really awful Molten Rift echoes, and maybe you have some other echoes built in the Lingering Tunes category, a combo of Molten Rift and Lingering Tunes is another option. And then finally, a combo of Molten Rift or Lingering Tunes plus Moonlit Clouds for the energy regen. If you just so happen to have a lot better echoes in these categories than Molten Rift, again, work on Molten Rift. It is the preferred category Sonata effect for Changli, but if you don't, you can run the others until you get up to snuff with your Molten Rift. Now with that out of the way, let's focus in on what echoes you should be aiming for and what stats on them you should be going for in order to get the most out of your Molten Rift echoes, which is your target Sonata effect. So you're going to want the Inferno Rider as your 4-cost echo. You're also going to want a format of 4-3-3-1-1. It's the best. If you do run 4-4-1-1-1, that is another option, but 4-3-3-1-1 is the preferred cost setup. For 4-3-3-1-1 for your 4-cost, you're going to want Inferno Rider. For your Inferno Rider, you're going to want a either crit rate or a crit damage main stat. Depending on what the rest of your stats are looking like for Changli, you can kind of switch between either crit damage or crit rate. Just really depends on what the rest of your stats look like, which I'll explain your target goals in a second. For your 3 costs, again, it doesn't matter which echoes they are as long as you have 5 different echoes in total. So you can pick any of the 3 costs to go for. You just want to get fusion damage bonus as your main stat for both of the echoes. Aim for that fusion damage bonus regardless of whichever echo it ends up being that you get. For the 1 cost, again, doesn't matter which 1 costs you put in as long as they're different, and you want that main stat to be attack percentage for your Changli. So attack percentage is what you're aiming for as the main stat in the 1 costs. Now for substats, and this applies to all the echoes of any cost, what substats you're going to be aiming for. You're going to want to get energy regen until the breakpoint, which is about 10 to 20%. Which if you just look at Changli in general, you'll see that when we go here, her energy regen is 109. You just minus the 100 from it, or when you click into echoes specifically, mine is only at 9.2. I'm working on trying to get more energy regen. You want to get in between 10 and 20% though, as that's the most important substat to be aiming for. Once you get that, then you'll want to get more crit rates or crit damage. Like as long as you can just keep getting crit rate and crit damage on all your echoes, that's the goal. You want to have and try and aim to be within, 120 to 150 plus crit damage and between 60 to 65 or 75% crit rate. It's kind of like you want double the crit damage that you have of crit rate. I am currently sitting at way more than double. I have to work on my crit rate, but my Changli's weapon, her Blazing Brilliance, is a crit damage. And because I have so much crit damage and not as much crit rate, that is why I said you can aim for a crit rate or crit damage on your forecast. I have the crit rate in order to give myself more crit rate because the game just keeps giving me crit damage. And then after that, you're going to want to aim for attack percentage. And then you can go for either flat attack, which is just the individual number. Let me see if I have anyone that has that on them currently. Yeah, there's the flat attack, which will just be the flat number. And then you'll want to go for resonance skill damage as the last one. Now, other stats that would help are obviously resonance liberation damage isn't awful. You don't really want to get any HP or defenses, depending on how picky you are with, your echoes, how perfect you want to get them, how much time, aka, you want to put in until you get lucky. You can accept having like one stat of a defense. Obviously, I wouldn't want that, but your main goal is energy regen until you get to that 10 to 20% range, then crit rate to crit damage, with crit damage being 2 times the crit rate, and then you want to go for attack percentage, and then flat attack or resonance skill damage percentage. Now for her forte, your focus should be resonance skill, then forte circuit, then resonance liberation, then normal attack, and then intro skill in terms of that order as what is the most important for Changli's damage output. Now let's talk about Changli's resonance skill, forte circuit, and resonance liberation. Her resonance skill, you're going to use her resonance skill, and it is going to enter you into a state called true sight. When you're in true sight, you will end your true sight either with a ground basic attack or an in-air basic attack. The only difference between conquest and charge is you're either on the ground or you're in midair when you do the last attack. Once you complete either of them, you will gain a stack of inflamement. What is inflamement? Well, it's explained here in the forte circuit. Changli can hold up to 4 stacks of inflamement, and you will obtain 1 stack of inflamement for every basic attack, true sight conquest, or true sight charge on hit. So you get 1 stack when you get that true sight conquest hit or that true sight charge hit. You can get 4 stacks instantly though if you use your resonance liberation. It'll just give you the maximum 4 stacks when you use your resonance liberation. And this is why in the echoes, it's important to try and get that energy regen to 10 to 20%. So you can always make sure you're timing it up so you get Changli's ultimate. Your energy regen is how fast your energy regenerates your ultimate. So that's why you want to have that energy regen, so you're always able to launch that ultimate and get that 4 stacks of inflamement instantly. Now, once you have 4 stacks of inflamement, you can see here, heavy attack, flaming sacrifice. When you release a heavy attack with the 4 stacks of inflamement, you will consume all 4 stacks, you will deal fusion damage, which will be considered as resonance skill damage, which is why you want that resonance skill damage on the echoes as well. And while casting Flaming Sacrifice, which is the attack, you will take 40% less damage. And when we jump to Resonance Liberation here, you will gain Fiery Feather, which will give you an attack increase of 25%. Now to sum this up really simply, you're going to want to ult, use your heavy attack, and then win. Kill the enemy. But if you don't have your ult, you're going to want to do your resonance skill, then end it with a basic attack either on the ground or the air. Keep doing that repeatedly until you either get your ultimate or you get all 4 stacks of inflamement, and then you're going to want a heavy attack and then win. So that's the 2 ways you can get to the end goal of heavy attacking, gaining the Fiery Feather, and dealing more damage. Now in terms of Changli's resonance chain, I would say that you don't need any of them, to be honest. You can easily do well with your Changli not getting any extra copies, but if you do want some extra copies, let me explain something here. I have 1 extra copy because I really enjoy Changli. I'm really having a lot of fun with her. She's been one of my favorite characters in like any of these games in quite a while. When you get 2 extra copies, you'll get Pursuit of Desires, which inflamement increases Changli's crit rate by 25% for 8 seconds. So that's a quick, easy way to get some extra crit rate if you're struggling with echoes and, have the resources to go out and get more Changli copies. That's a way to kind of get around instead of just re-rolling your echoes all the time. Then 4 extra copies will give you the ability to increase your whole team's attack by 20%. It just helps if you're running her with, you know, Encore or something, and I'll explain her teams in a second, but it helps give them extra damage. And then finally, if you were to max her out, get all 6 copies, which will ignore an additional 40% of the target's defense while dealing damage with your Resonance skill, Heavy Attack, and Resonance Liberation, which ignoring 40% more defense is huge, but again, this isn't necessary. You can easily beat all the, you know, content in the game without getting any of these extra Resonance chains on your Changli. It's just if you love Changli and you want to see her do even better, you can get them, but again, not necessary. It's not like she's a useless character without them. Let's talk about teams you can run with Changli and what other resonators people have been rocking with Changli that will give you the most for your Changli. Now, I should say the best teams with Changli are all quick swap teams where you're swapping in and out really quickly between your resonators, trying to get the most and get Changli in and out, getting Changli's ultimate back, launching Changli's ultimate, and kind of just rotating through again. With that being said, though, you're going to want to run as the most meta team that most people run. It's Changli, Varina, and Yinlin. Common theme, I know, of Varina and Yinlin followed by whichever DPS you're using, whether that be jinhsi, jiyan, clacharo. It's always Changli with Varina and Yinlin at this point. Yinlin may be swapped out with Zheji when she comes out of the future. We'll see about that. But that's like the best team that most people feel. Another option is Changli, Encore, and Varina. And then the other one that a lot of people run is Changli, Rover, main character, and Varina. Some other replacements for like Yinlin or Encore or the Rover are a lot of people have been running Chisha out there. People have been running Tao Chi because some people are big fans of the jiggle, which Tao Chi and Changli have a whole lot of jiggle. So I've seen that going on, and it's actually been working too. It's not just the jiggle, but I've seen people actually getting Changli, doing some good stuff with Tao Chi, and doing some good stuff with that. And then besides Chisha and Tao Chi, I've seen a lot of people running Jiyan Shin. The big Jiyan Shin fans out there, they'll rock her in there as well. So those are like the main teams I've seen working, and then mathematically again, it's those 3 at the top. But if you've been running something else, maybe you've been trying out Mortefi and you've been liking him, or you've been running Sanhua. I know there's some Sanhua fans that have been trying, but my main recommendations are Varina, Yinlin, Encore, main character, Rover, and then replacements being Baiji, Chisha, Tao Chi, or Jiyan Shin. So I hope that helps you out in trying to determine teams, because I know not everyone has all the characters or has all the characters leveled up like myself. I still have a lot of work to get everyone leveled up and whatnot, but I hope that helps. Again, people are kind of doing like I've seen for the Varina, Yinlin, Changli team. You basically go into battle, Varina ults, use the Echo, swap to Yinlin. Yinlin then will use her abilities, swap to Changli, ult, use Changli's abilities, then swap back to Yinlin, and it's a lot of quick swapping. So yeah, I know not everyone wants to play that way, and let me tell you, I've been running around where like I'll not even sometimes use either of them. I'll just use Changli the whole time, and she does quite well for herself, I must say. Like, you can get away with her being the only person doing anything in a lot of the content in this game. So with that being said, though, I hope this helps you out. If you have any further questions on Changli, let me know in the comments down below. I wish you all the best. If you're still trying to pull her, hopefully you get lucky and pull Changli. And I hope y'all are staying happy and healthy, having the best days. I'll catch y'all in the next video.